Good morning, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to episode 48 of the Cloudcast. Once again, we're coming to you live from our massive Cloudcast studios here in Raleigh, North Carolina. Aaron, welcome aboard tonight. How are you?
Hello, everyone. Doing okay tonight. I managed to get the conference flu, just get it out of the way ahead of time. So I'm trying to get my head above water here tonight, but I might sound a little sick, but just get over it, and hopefully I'll head through conference season, without any sickness this year.
All right, good. But we're all on Skype, so you're not going to get us sick, which is all good.
Exactly. I'm not contagious.
And welcome aboard. Welcome back to the show, actually. Friend of the show, we're going to talk a little about security tonight. Rand Wacker, Vice President of Product for CloudPassage. Rand, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So, it's been about 6 months since you were first on the show. You guys were just launching, just getting started. A lot's happened to both CloudPassage, and we'll jump into that from a product technology perspective. But, a lot going on in the cloud industry. We've got new product launches in terms of new clouds. We've got new standards like OpenStack. And so a lot of good stuff going on there. And then, and you're going to probably get mad at me about this, but it feels like to a certain extent, and maybe I just get grumpy about this sometimes, it feels like security sometimes is that one area that's sort of like one step forward and then two steps back. And whether it's like, the LinkedIn passwords or the Yahoo passwords gets hacked, or we all learn about salted passwords, or like what's going on in the security industry? I mean, do we screw up for those of us that don't live in security industry and kind of lump everything into security, or is it kind of this? There's just so many bad things out there that there's always going to be something going on. What's going on in security in the cloud space these days?
Well, I mean, the thing is, you bring up all the recent headlines, and if you look kind of historically over time, there's always been security breaches at various technology companies, and just depending on the popularity or the awareness of a specific name, the breach and the exposure gets more publicity or less. But what I'm really seeing is as people are starting to look at the cloud for doing if not augmenting their internal resources, building their entire site out there. You kind of set it up front, like, they're starting out in the cloud, and then they realize after a while that they're like, okay, so what are we actually doing about the security aspect of that? And some of the challenges that we're seeing in the cloud space in general is that, like, the security awareness is sometimes lagging the cloud awareness because everyone's just jumping so fast into this whole infrastructure as a service and PaaS world.
And that's kind of along the same lines of historically security sometimes is an afterthought, or certainly the last thing to get implemented, because they're looking at application functionality first, and we'll fix that later. But everything is moving so fast now, sometimes it's not even remembered after the fact, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we've all been in IT for a long time, and traditionally, security has at least been part of the process, because in order to get any kind of resource, you had to go to IT, and then IT would at least have, security is one of the things they need to figure out before they rolled out a new process or a new service. But in the cloud world, where you've got self-service capabilities, you have people who go to a cloud provider, and swipe a credit card, or for free start, leasing servers or subscribing to some type of online service or something like that, and it completely takes IT out of the loop, and therefore it takes the security team out of the loop as well.
So let's talk about that a little bit. So, last time you were on, we were kind of introducing CloudPassage and what you guys do for anybody who is sort of new to the show in the last 6 months or so. Give us real quick kind of the high level overview, what you guys do, what's sort of different, but then let's talk a little bit about why, because of the way you guys are so on demand, it is sort of self-service, we start to address some of that. How do we get security included?
Yeah, definitely a good conversation to have. So just really quickly from the CloudPassage side, we provide security for virtual servers running in public or private clouds. And we do it in a way that matches the dynamic nature of the cloud and works within the constraint of a public cloud environment where you don't have access to the network or the hypervisor like you would in your own private data center. And so we manage firewalls for access control. We've got some really cool multi-factor authentication to protect the sensitive ports on your cloud servers, and we do host-based protection such as vulnerability scanning and intrusion detection, and all of it's run from the host itself, and so it's portable across any cloud provider or any cloud stack that you might be running on-prem.
Okay, so it's Amazon, it's Rackspace Cloud, it could be a VMware cloud running on somebody's premise. It's any sort of any of those things across the various hypervisors, right?
Exactly, and our goal is to really be portable across all those environments, because we're seeing people as they start thinking about how do we not just take advantage of a specific public cloud, or how do we build our own private cloud environment. We're seeing a lot of people try to figure out how do I just architect my future strategy to enable me to do hybrid, where I've got some set of resources on-prem, I can take advantage and scale out to off-prem or public cloud providers, and take advantage of the cheapest one at the time. I mean, in the 6 months since we've last talked, we've had clouds launched, infrastructure as a service offerings from Google, Dell. Microsoft's cloud is now letting you run Linux virtual machines. Even VMware is rumored to be building an infrastructure as a service cloud pretty soon. So lots of stuff going on.
So there's a couple of cool aspects to this, and I want to come back to the whole sort of hybrid cloud and security for hybrid cloud thing. So one of the things, and we can, it may be easier for folks to go to the CloudPassage website and kind of go look at all the new product announcements and press releases and stuff. A lot of cool stuff there. But one of them that was really, really interesting to me, and when we talked the very first time, it was the cool thing was the product itself, or the service itself, because it basically is sort of like security as a service, if you will, with technology you guys deliver, was not only could it run anywhere, right, which is very cool. It can run private, it could run public, but you could get started for free, right? You guys have a free version of it that has certain functionality, and then there's a sort of a premium version that comes with it. And to me, the one thing that jumped out at me that was seemed really, really powerful was if I'm the app developer, the guy who wants to go get started with this stuff, it's almost like he could, I don't want to say he could bypass the security team, but he could say, look, I'm just going to grab it. Like, I'm just going to grab it off the shelf, just like anything else I have to any other package I have to grab to get my OS running or anything else. And one of the cool things you guys have done now, is, at least with the Rackspace Cloud, is they offer CloudPassage as an app, like within their app store. So it's you want to get security services, cool, the CloudPassage app is there. You want to get governance services, cool, the Enstratus app is there. You want to get cost manageability, you go and get the Cloudability app. Like, are you seeing more and more folks, because it's right there as an app, starting to adopt this? I mean, so we get past that idea of security came last, or is this still too new?
No, that's exactly so. The idea of the developer going and getting it for himself is exactly what we're trying to enable. This whole cloud, the purchasing model, the deployment model is very self-service and just very much like, I want instant gratification. And so what's awesome about these new marketplaces that are launching, Rackspace is probably the biggest marketplace that's out there, but even Amazon broke down and started building their own kind of marketplace, is that, for the developer that is getting their servers from their provider, they can then now just go and simply, check a box. It's like, I'd like to add some management on that, some monitoring, and oh yeah, definitely, let me add some security pieces on that. So we're seeing, the nice thing about the cloud is that with APIs and the ability for people to kind of create these building block services and link them all together, Now these marketplaces are enabling people to buy them all together as well. So you don't have 20 different credit card subscriptions to manage, and then that eventually gets too big, and then you have to deal with procurement and all those kinds of things.
Okay. And would you expect? I mean, are you kind of getting wind that this is going to become the norm for most of the clouds that are out there?
It's a good question. I think at this point it's too early to tell what the norm of this industry will be. We're seeing a fair amount of multi-cloud deployments out there as well, where people will be running some servers in Amazon, some servers in Rackspace, some servers in a GoGrid, something like that. And with the number of clouds that are launching, a lot of people are trying to figure out how do I keep my systems portable so that if someone comes out with better terms of service or lower costs, I can easily move from an Amazon cloud to a Google cloud to a Rackspace cloud or something like that.
So Rand, when it comes to the idea of customers using multiple clouds out there, are they doing it today because they're just testing the waters, trying to figure out who in the market has the advantage and which ones are better or more cost competitive? Or are they doing it because some customers, that's actually their strategy going forward, that they want to actually be multi-vendor?
Well, I think one reason people are doing it is for availability. Like it or not, outages happen, and it's happening in the cloud, and you see a lot of press around those things, and so people are kind of spreading their exposure around. But the other thing I'm seeing, there's kind of a saying that people are getting into. There used to be the saying that if you want to be in the cloud, if you want to do cloud computing, even if your ultimate goal is private, start in public, because the public cloud is much more constrained, and if you solve the problems there, then everything else, including private and hybrid, is easy. The same thing is kind of also going for some of the more advanced providers. Like, people are saying, don't build your system to be completely dependent on Amazon's other services, because then you get some pretty big cloud lock-in there. And so, a lot of people are running, a combination of servers in Amazon and Rackspace and GoGrid, for an example, to keep themselves honest about what level of support and what level of services do they need for their to keep their systems running, or can they simply move, to commodity compute and storage vendor to commodity compute and storage vendor.
Oh, cool. And to just kind of circle back around to this App Store idea for a second, is that something that you think will really shape the industry going forward, or do you think it'll eventually diverge into two camps of the build your own versus package, but packages may have lock-in, packages may not have the customization you need, and of course it's obviously very early on in that marketplace concept or App Store idea, but is that something that you think will enable further growth in the industry, especially around security?
Yeah, totally. I think the great thing about the App Store marketplaces is that it just makes it easier for people to jump in and get started. And beyond this, making it easier for people to actually buy and deploy them, just being able to find the services is a big deal. Because if I am going to go spin up some cloud servers, what better place to figure out what are the highly rated and popular apps to go along with that cloud server than from the App Store of my provider.
Now, as you talk about that, and you and I have been talking a little bit offline before the show and so forth, when you've got the service in one of the app stores, or sort of like you said, it's a place where people can find it. I assume there's ways for people to sort of comment on it, talk about it. It builds a community around it. Are you guys as CloudPassage putting together packages for some of the more complex things, like, for example, a PCI environment, or what might be considered like a HIPAA environment, right? So sort of regulated things. Or are you seeing the community kind of go, well, I tried it this way, we got through our compliance test, here's our configurations. Are you seeing people taking it that next step beyond just firewall services to more kind of complete solutions that they can package together or share with each other?
Yeah, there's what we're seeing, what we're trying to do in the marketplace is make things as easy as possible. So we sell a number of different packages. Our professional package does all the compliance and PCI pieces, and we've actually seen a lot of uptake, and now a lot of people who are actually publishing like PCI compliance in the cloud. Here's how I achieved it. We can talk about that a little bit. In the app stores, though, what we're finding is that you usually get more of a entry, kind of someone who's just getting started, and they're looking for something that gives them the basics. And so, for example, in Rackspace's marketplace, we sell our mid-range package called Halo NetSec. And that's focused on firewall, multi-factor authentication to protect your, SSH or RDP ports, and giving you security alerts on your server that's there. And so it's a simpler thing for the customer to get running with. And then, once they get that initial level of security, if they're doing advanced things like PCI or HIPAA or something in the cloud, then they can move up in the package that they're running.
Okay. So, when we first started talking about this, it was kind of a very unique thing because you guys were taking this really powerful technology. A lot of the folks that are building it for you come from a variety of very hardcore security backgrounds. So you were at Ironport and some folks from say RSA, and then some other people with kind of unique backgrounds. But here's what I'm trying to figure out is, you've got all this stuff that's going on, whether it's like mobile devices, which is like just tons more devices, and the security parameters moved around. You've got botnets, you've got these sort of military based things, or the guys out of China. I mean, like the threat is huge, right? The who it is, what are you guys seeing? Or are you seeing people ask you, instead of just providing you the technology that's delivered sort of as a service, are they asking you to also sort of manage it themselves because of all this expertise you have? They're saying, look, I can't really keep up with all of it. I mean, I know the technology's powerful, but I still don't really know what I mean, are they coming to you and saying, can you guys run this for me? Is that sort of evolving in your business? Is that what people are asking, or they feel like they can keep up with it?
Well, so we're not specifically a managed service provider, because there's a lot of costs, and a lot of people don't necessarily they're not looking to outsource their security operations center. Okay. What they are looking for are tools that start with give them a really strong security posture for their servers. And so we bring a ton of content, what we call the policies, the configurations, all those kinds of things. We provide those directly into whatever operating system or application you're running. But then the other piece that we do is that we're built in a way that works in that dynamic cloud environment. And so, we call it security orchestration for the cloud, where as people are running in this new model, where instead of having long-lived servers that have, a lot of patches that are applied over time and a lot of cruft that builds up, the state-of-the-art operations in the cloud is that you have a gold master image, and then you create a bunch of clones of that to meet whatever kind of load you have right now. And then you assume that those clones are going to remain, identical to the gold master, and you're never even going to really patch those. You would instead, have the next generation of the gold master. You'd spin out a bunch of other clones, and then what you're doing is you're kind of looking to make sure that every single server in that pool matches the gold master and nothing's changed. Because with those botnets, when those attacks come in, or a developer logs on and makes a change that leaves the server open to attack, it's that one server that's different from the other 100 that you really want to be able to zoom in on really quickly and lock it back down.
Yeah, and you really touch on two really key aspects of very traditional enterprise IT pain points, and that's the concept of patching it and keeping all those things up to date, and the other one is compliance, keeping everything in alignment, and really both of those are addressed in that situation.
Yeah, and they're addressed kind of from the conceptual model of how you operationalize it, and then one of our big areas and big big differences in the way we do security from the way that more traditional enterprise tools do it is that we let you enforce that. We let you say, here's your gold master, and then I don't care if you've got 10 servers or 10,000, let's make sure that all of them stay in the right posture. Let's make sure that all of them have the right firewall rules, and that dynamic nature, because you've got people out there doing stuff in the cloud that, on a 24-hour basis can swing from, 5,000 servers to 20,000 servers and back down. And that dynamic nature and being able to make sure that all those clones, it's like the clone army out of Star Wars, make sure they're all identical. That's just something that really I've never seen in a traditional IT environment.
So a lot of power in their hands to be able to deal with these dynamic environments. How are they dealing with in this hybrid environment where people, like you said, will sort of build a gold master, or typically patched gold master, maybe not patched gold master, but then a number of the public providers will have Amazon's got AMIs, Rackspace has got ways to get at Windows images versus Linux images. How are folks keeping those things in sync, and are there components of what you guys deliver that can help a customer make sure that they're not out of sync in terms of patch levels or security vulnerabilities? How are they dealing with just OS level, patch level stuff between different environments?
Yeah, one of the most common questions we get is, how are we different than like a RightScale or a Chef or a Puppet, which are all great tools for managing and building your server images, and then kind of creating those fleet of clones. And what we see a lot of times is people are putting CloudPassage as part of what they call the recipe for building the server. So you get the CloudPassage daemon installed as part of that stack, and then RightScale, Chef, Puppet, they're helping you throw those servers out in the world. And then what we're doing is that we are basically enforcing and maintaining all the security policies. So, for example, we will manage your host-based firewall, and we'll automatically update that firewall if, say, you've got a group of web servers and a group of database servers. You can create just a firewall rule that says, any web server can talk to any database server. And what we do is that we automatically update that. So if you spin up 10 new web servers, we'll automatically tell the database servers about those new IP addresses so that the web servers can connect. And if you take those 10 down, we'll automatically close off those ports on the database server. And so, people are building, they're automating the construction and the deployment of all these with those, kind of management orchestration tools. And then CloudPassage is really doing the real-time orchestration of the security for the firewall rules and your access, and then those patches and security vulnerabilities as well. Because the Chefs, the Puppets, the RightScales, they do a really good job of getting the software out there, but they don't have the security awareness. You asked earlier, Brian, about people are asking CloudPassage to do the security piece for them. That's the content and the security expertise that we provide.
Gotcha. So that's kind of a cool change, right? So we started off the show talking about the fact that security professionals typically are sort of have had this mantra forever of we want to make things secure for you. We want to do the right thing, but we're just not at the table. We're not included. Now given the fact that they can sort of get the security when they're spinning up VMs, if you will, they can include it in Chef and Puppet and RightScale and in Stratus. And I mean, are we kind of seeing the beginning of this idea that we're going to move away from the security professionals not being invited to the table to just that function, that skill set just evolving into the application space, the guys who run the servers and so forth? Or is that never? I mean, is that way too difficult to see that evolve that way?
Oh no, we already see it evolve. I mean, I think that with the evolution of the DevOps function, which runs everything within your quote unquote cloud data center, Those guys are focused on automation. They're focused on keeping the site running, those kinds of things. They don't have a security background. So they love it when we can, provide them a drop-in solution for their security needs. And we'll harden their servers, we'll manage their firewalls, we'll give them all these cool tools that'll automate those pieces. So that's the company that is running a bunch of DevOps, it's a business unit that's building something really quickly outside of IT, that kind of thing. But then we also work in the environment where security is at the table. Security can, have our daemon installed on all the servers, and security can have their own view into the servers and leave the developers alone. And as long as the developers can continue to spin up things, with the push of a button, and they don't have to wait 6 weeks for security to twiddle a firewall rule, then the developers are happy because they can still have that really fast, agile cloud environment. And the security guys are happy because they still get visibility and control into everything that's being spun up out there.
Okay. And you guys, when we talked a while ago, this was pretty much Linux centric. You guys have moved that. It now supports Windows environments as well. DevOps tends to sort of be for the Linux crowd. I mean, the tools are there. And do you see the same types of things applying for the Windows crowd as well, or is that still kind of its own separate world in terms of how they can automate and how you're seeing these two disciplines come together?
We're seeing it. It's really fascinating to me because I would have never assumed to see a lot of Windows out there. But some of the cloud providers out there will quote Windows as being 30, 40, even 50% of their servers. And there's a lot of people who are trying to automate Windows. The tools are maybe not as mature as they are on the Linux side. But at the end of the day, people are making a choice for Windows or Linux based on what their developers know. I see more people building, SAP applications on Windows just because their developers know .NET as opposed to knowing Ruby. And that's a perfectly legitimate reason to choose that and run it.
Very interesting.
And to kind of split it one other way as well. So what are the big differences that you're seeing? Because we've been talking a lot about the public cloud model, but in a private cloud model, how does this change?
Yeah, so it's really interesting when you see someone that's had a traditional data center for a long time, and then for whatever reason they go out and they try a public cloud service. Usually it's because they need some dev test systems as a resource or something, and people get pushed there because we couldn't get IT to do it fast enough, or it's cheap or something like that. But the first time they click a button and have a new server just pop up within 5 minutes, and they see the self-service and very agile, fast nature of it, they immediately start thinking, I need this in my own data center. And so we see people who are, actually taking and building, once they've seen the benefits of doing cloud computing in a public cloud, they then want that same type of dynamic self-service nature in a private cloud. And so they start building, something based on OpenStack or based on Eucalyptus or Cloud.com or something like that. But then they have to go and they have to rethink, in particularly security, how are they going to do the same type of network segregation they did between the servers, in a private cloud environment? How are they going to be able to enforce the host security pieces where you've got these, this very dynamic nature of the servers, which none of the traditional security tools can really handle. And so, we see that a private cloud where you're doing a true dynamic infrastructure as a service model is very, very different than traditional virtual data centers, because you've got a very flat network. You've got all these hosts that can talk to each other. People try to figure out how do we segregate that data. You've got cases where you never know which server is your neighbor, and so in some cases you want to definitely figure out how do you segregate the development servers from the finance servers, those kinds of things. So in the private cloud you have all these same problems, and our technology works really well in that environment. And I think people are just starting to realize that it's not just like a cloud behind a firewall. Like, you really got to figure out how you're going to run that private cloud the way that you'd run your servers in a public environment.
Yeah, Aaron. I think it's gonna make for some really interesting scenarios, because I mean you've got some companies, technology vendors, for example, who've been sort of saying, well, the journey to cloud maybe starts private because that's an environment they tend to sell to IT organizations, and then the journey will move out to public. If you talk to developers, they as we've sort of highlighted, they tend to want to go where they don't have any friction, which is public. And then, and even though public has its own challenges to it, it's sort of transparent. I mean, there's plenty of people who know, what the networking looks like for Amazon or for, for Google, as they document stuff. And then you come back into your private cloud and the transparency isn't there. The communities aren't necessarily there to sort of help you figure that out. So it'll be interesting to watch and see, how much people end up actually moving from one to another, right? Is it the sort of the gravity keeps it there? Does the lack of transparency keep it there? I think for you guys, for CloudPassage, the cool thing is, at least as I understand it, I mean, there's no difference between your security services running in a public environment or a private environment, right? I mean, it's the same set of controls, the same set of features and functionality. So it's almost like security may become no longer the long pole in the tent, maybe the shorter pole in the tent in some cases.
Yeah, and really it comes down to, again, just like so many other things in this industry, it comes down to abstraction. And you're really, what you're doing is abstracting the public or private with security layer. And that's a great concept.
Yeah, letting the security kind of run in all those different environments, letting the security be baked in and move around with the virtual machine. Because at the end of the day, if you're moving your systems from your private virtual stack into a public cloud, back into a private cloud, between different clouds, like, it's that VM that's the single the single common denominator that you can protect, and that's about the only thing that you can ensure you have access to, no matter where you're running it.
Very, very cool. So listen, we kind of hit on a lot of this stuff. I mean, we've hit on new functionality. We've hit on some of the trends that are going on, which I think, again, we sort of highlighted it here. If you're coming at it from a developer's perspective and that side of security, you're going to see it different than if you're coming at it from say the IT perspective on this. I think it's very cool. I think what you guys do kind of does bridge the gap between those two things. It may make security sort of a more of a bringing together function. So real quick, DEF CON, the DEF CON conference just got done. We were talking offline that you weren't there specifically, but obviously CloudPassage was there. There's a number of cloud events coming up, here in the fall time, VMware and so forth. Are you guys going to be out there? Are people going to get a chance to get to know you guys? Will you be out and about at the various conferences?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we were at DEF CON. We actually sponsored B-Sides, which is kind of the alternative show to the security shows, if you want to get into the really crazy security crowds. But then we also go to all the cloud events. The Cloud Expo out in New York recently. We should be at the Amazon's having their first user conference down in Las Vegas in November. So that'll be actually a really interesting new venue, because there you've got the Cloud Expos, the Cloud Connects. Those things have been a lot of people trying to figure out what is the cloud, what are we doing about it, those kinds of things. The Amazon user conference, I think, will be really hands-on operators that are all trying to take their skills really to the next level, because all this is just moving so fast. It's amazing.
Okay, very cool. So, Aaron, before you take us out, Rand, give us one really cool use case, one really cool customer example that doing something different and doing something different because of how quick they can take advantage of the service, or because of how easy it scales. So one of our customers we love to talk about is Foursquare, the social networking site, and
it's a great example of during the week they run a few hundred servers, but on the weekend, when everyone starts going out and let their friends know where they go, they scale up to 2-3x that. So they've got several hundred servers running over the space of 24 hours. What our system allows them to do is just transparently, as they're popping up more servers in whatever public cloud they're running in, all the firewall rules get updated. All those servers are monitored for any kind of developer misconfiguration or any kind of file changes that shouldn't be going on, that kind of thing. And it's this elasticity, the ability to handle that dynamic environment, that just really enables people to take advantage of the cloud for how cool and different of a operations tool that it is.
Very cool. And we haven't heard any public hackings of Foursquare, so it sounds like you guys you're doing your job and keeping them safe and letting people check in wherever they want to check in. So very, very cool.
Yep.
Well, Aaron, we will we'll have to sort of make it our mission when we're out at VMworld here in a couple of weeks to see if we can figure out how to get the CloudPassage guys into some of the App Store stuff that VMware is pushing instead of all the end user things, right? Try and make the servers and the developer guys as productive as they're trying to make end users with BYOD.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah,
so Rand,
look forward to see you guys out here.
Absolutely, Rand. Where can everyone follow you and CloudPassage and find out more about what's going on in the world of cloud security or CloudPassage specifically?
Yep, cloudpassage.com, and in fact, we've got we've just relaunched our cloud security blog, linked off of that site. Really good content there. That's not necessarily about our product, but about what do people need to understand as they're moving to the cloud, about how security is different, even about just how cloud changes their operational models. We really focus on the education and helping people take advantage of all these cool new things.
Cool.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, so I'll take us out here. First of all, if you like our show, please tell a friend or leave us a review on iTunes. And you can follow us on Stitcher at TheCloudcastNet or on the web at thecloudcast.net, where you can find links to our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, links to iTunes, Stitcher, and now we're streaming on TuneIn as well. So that's it for Brian and I. Thank you very much for listening, and have a great week.